Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at forms inside of HTML. Now, a form is one of the ways that we can communicate with the website from us, the client or the user. Now, forms can be used for a number of different things. They can be used for stuff such as search bars, maybe an input where you can enter in your name, age, and then click on like send to database. There's lots of things you can do with forms, lots of back-end stuff as well of communicating with servers, with databases. But for us, we're going to create a simple layout where we can enter in our name and our age and click a button to basically submit it. So to begin, we need to create our form. And to do that, we are going to use the form tag. So here I'm going to go form, and then I'm going to create another closing bracket down here with /form. So for our first form element, let's have our name and then basically have it so that we can type in our name inside of basically a search bar. So here I'm going to go name, space, and then we need to create a new tag known as the input tag. And the input tag is a HTML element where we can input a value, being input some text, inputting a number, inputting a time, a week, a day. Any sort of input that you can give to our website is done through the input tag. So this is a self-closing tag, so I'm going to go input and then / closing bracket like so. Now for the input tag here, it's also good to basically define what type of input this is, and we do that with the type attribute. So here I'm going to go type equals, and this is going to be of type text. So I can click run, and you'll see here that we have name, and then we have an input field here that we can select and type whatever we wish in here. So we can type in our name in this field now, which is great. Now, next up, we want to have an age input field. And this age input field, we don't want to be able to type in letters, okay? We only want to type in numbers. So for this here, I'm going to go new line, go age, and then here I'm going to create the input tag again. Make sure it is a self-closing tag as well. And this is going to be of type number. Okay, we can click run, and you'll see here that we have name and age. Okay, if we go in name, we can type in some text, but in age, we cannot type text. We can only type in numbers, which is really good. And you'll see here that the age input field also has these two little arrows here, which allows us to sequentially add or subtract numbers from the total here, okay, which could be good in some circumstances. Now, one final thing for our form here is going to be a button that we can click to basically save or submit these values. And to do that, I'm going to go down here in our form on a new line, and we don't need some text before the button. We only want the button there. So I'm going to go ahead, create ourselves a new input self-closing tag here. And we need to define two things. First of all, the type being a submit button, and the value, which is basically what text is this button going to have on top of it. So first of all, the type here is going to be equal to submit, which is basically a button that will submit the contents of the form. And we then need a value, which is going to be what the button text is going to display. So in this case, we'll just make it say save. Okay, we can click run, and there we go. We can enter in a name, we can enter in an age, and then click save here. And as you can see, it basically removed these elements here, and that is because this submit button submits it, but right now we don't have any sort of backend to submit this text to, so it basically removes the text here. Whereas, if you're creating a website where you actually want to submit a form, you would connect it up to a server, or you would connect it up to some other sort of code where it would then process this information. Now, one thing that we might want to change is the fact that everything is on one line. And the reason why is because whenever we create an input field, unlike when we do headers or paragraphs, it does not automatically put us on a new line, okay? So in this case, what we want to do is sort of encapsulate each of these elements right here. So the name and the search box, and then the age and the input field, and then the save button. And we sort of want to put each of those on a new line. And to do this, we are going to use a tag called div. And div is one of the most versatile tags that you will use in HTML, and you'll be using it for a wide range of different things. A div tag, basically, you define the opening tag and the closing tag, and all the contents of that div tag is going to take up the horizontal space for that line, okay? And that allows us to basically divide up sections of HTML tags and put them all on one line, then get another section of HTML tags and put them on another line. In our case, we want to put the text and the input fields on the same line. Then put these ones on a different line, and then this one on a different line. So to do this, we need to create the div tag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to indent name by pressing tab to basically indent it 2 spaces. I'm then going to create the div tag above it here, and then create the closing div tag on the other side here. Okay, we can then click run, and you'll see here that name and the input field is on its own line now. So we can go ahead and do the same thing for age here. So I'm going to create the div tag and then make sure to close that on the outside of age right here. Hit run, and there we go. And for the sake of this, we're going to do it for input, but as you can see here, we don't need to, although I reckon for consistency in our form, it probably is best practice to go ahead and do that as well. So create the div here and create the closing div here. Okay, and there we go. So you can see here that we have each of these elements inside of their own individual div tags. So all the contents inside of this div is going to take up the horizontal space of this line. So to recap, first up, we're creating forms, which is basically a way of us communicating with the website. We can input information such as a name, which is text, an age, which is number, and then click on a submit button, which will then process that information. Now, in order to get each of these elements and sections of our HTML on individual lines, we are using what is known as a div tag. And div basically gets that HTML elements, or a number of different HTML elements, and is sort of a container for them, okay? So this name and the input field here are in its own container displayed on a line. We then have another container right here for the age and another for the save button, all right? So thanks for watching, and in the next lesson, we'll be looking at more fields inside of forms. So I'll see you all then in the next lesson.